Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As chairman of the 16th Tanbel Mahatma Gandhi, in other words, Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Foundation, I am delighted to welcome you to this program to celebrate International Day of Non-Violence. I am delighted to welcome you to this program online. Normally speaking, we organize this program every year in the Peace Palace in The Hague. But due to Corona environment, it is not advisable for us to have large number of persons assembling physically at one place. That is why we have decided to meet online to celebrate International Day of Non-Violence. The program is being organized by Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Foundation with strong support from the Municipality of The Hague and Embassy of India. As many of you know already, International Day of Non-Violence is celebrated on 2nd of October, that is the birthday of Mahatma Gandhi. According to the UN resolution of June 15, 2007, which established this commemoration, the International Day of Non-Violence is an occasion to disseminate message of non-violence through public awareness. This resolution was sponsored by India along with co-sponsorship by 140 countries. This widespread sponsorship of the resolution is a reflection of the universal respect for Mahatma Gandhi and enduring relevance of his philosophy. As it is widely known, Mahatma Gandhi was the pioneer of the philosophy and strategy of non-violence. His concept of non-violence resistance liberated India from the mighty British Empire and speeded up the end of colonialism in the world. His marches and fasts fired the imagination of oppressed people everywhere. His concept of peaceful change through non-violence means is as relevant today as it was during his lifetime. Conflicts are an inevitable part of human condition. Gandhiji taught us that the best way to resolve conflicts is through dialogue and peaceful means. Our purpose in organizing this program is to create greater awareness in resolving social and political conflicts. We have invited a number of distinguished speakers who are eminently qualified to speak to us on this subject. We are greatly honored that His Excellency Mr. Grappenhaus, Minister of Justice and Security of the Netherlands, has kindly agreed to deliver the keynote address this morning. His Excellency Mr. Vinu Rajamani, the Ambassador of India to the Netherlands, will speak to us on relevance of Mahatma Gandhi and his message in the post-COVID world. Mayor of The Hague, His Excellency Mr. Jan van Zanen, and ambassadors of Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka have sent us their messages for this important occasion. Deputy Mayor of The Hague, Mr. Bernd van Alphen, will recite a poem selected specially for this occasion. At the suggestion of our foundation the Hague University of Applied Sciences has created a Mahatma Gandhi room at the university to create greater awareness about the life and thoughts of Mahatma Gandhi. Mrs. Lidwin Bremer, Director of Faculty, Public Management, Law and Safety of the university, will make an inaugural presentation of the Mahatma Gandhi Room on this occasion. The 16th Stanbell Mahatma Gandhi was established 30 years ago to highlight Gandhi's contribution to the world and to create awareness about his philosophy of non-violence resistance and against oppression and for social and political change through peaceful means. The foundation established a Gandhi monument in the center of Amsterdam in 1990, which was unveiled by the then Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Professor Ruud Lubbers. If you wish to know more about the work of our foundation, or if you wish to be associated with this work, you are welcome to contact me in person or our Executive Secretary, Mrs. Patricia de Bordes. I hope you will enjoy participating in this program and will find it stimulating and inspiring. Thank you.
Jai Guru Deva I hope I've pronounced it properly. This Sanskrit phrase means something like glory to the shining remover of darkness, or simply hail to the divine Guru. Now, if I were to sing those words, many of you would recognize them straight away. It's the mantra that's repeated in the Beatles song Across the Universe. I'm a big fan of the Beatles, and as a 10-year-old, I sang along enthusiastically, without knowing what the words meant. It was only much later that I realized what richness lay behind them. Now, I'm not especially religious, but now, 50 years on, I find that the philosophy at the heart of Hinduism largely matches my own worldview, the way I approach my work and my outlook on life. Today is Mahatma Gandhi's birthday and the International Day of Non-Violence. And on the face of it, it's odd that such a day should exist. After all, there's no International Day of breathing, eating, or sleeping. So it seems that non-violence is not viewed as the norm, as a normality. It's not seen as something that goes without saying. And that's strange, because our society is largely free of violence. The vast majority of Dutch people behave in a way that is beyond reproach. We don't tend to go around punching each other in the face. Colleagues who disagree, whether it's at work, don't usually come to blows. And if they do, it's an isolated incident. An incident to which our justice system has an appropriate response. It works on the premise that violence is wrong, but also that people sometimes make mistakes. And unless you commit a serious offense, you don't have to pay the price for the rest of your life. Freedom is not worth having if it doesn't include the freedom to make mistakes, so said Gandhi. But he added significantly, the important thing is to learn from them. I learned about Gandhi's ideas towards the end of my primary school. I was brought up a Roman Catholic, but was always thought to be open to other beliefs. And I like the fact that Gandhi took the same approach. You can only grow as a person if you put yourself in other people's shoes. Gandhi was a striking individual, small, fragile looking, with those iconic glasses, and the man who brought the British Empire to its knees. He showed that you could defeat a violent oppressor by means of peaceful protest, patience, and dialogue. Since his death, the world has changed. Two countries where Gandhi lived, India and South Africa, have been transformed beyond recognition. Europe, meanwhile, has enjoyed an incredible long period of peace. The Soviet Union has fallen apart, and China has become an economic powerhouse. In most places, but not everywhere, alas, the world has become undeniably more prosperous, more democratic, and more humane. At the same time, we are seeing greater self-assurance among people who, although they live in freedom, feel discriminated against, who feel they don't get a fair chance when they apply for jobs, who feel they are singled out for rougher treatment by the police, who question traditions. And there's a growing unease in society, a new polarization amplified by social media. Organizing a protest was never so easy. The distance between ordinary people and authority has never been so small. I'm curious about how Gandhi would have viewed all of this. Would he have applauded or condemned it? Would he have been on Twitter? Would he have been described as woke or a snowflake? In fact, Gandhi is not immune to the upheaval of the modern world. We saw that this year, 72 years after his death, when his statue in Amsterdam was daubed with graffiti. This act shocked the Indian community, and not only you. For many Dutch people, the attack on the statue amounted to an attack on the principles of peace and non-violence. Now, Gandhi was not infallible. We know that. And more importantly, he knew it too. For example, he was a strict vegetarian, but once he experimented with eating meat because a friend said he was too thin. Now, besides the fact that it didn't help, he was very honest about this episode, and he wasn't proud of it. And not long after the statue was vandalized, I spoke with members of the Indian community and shared my concerns. Just like Gandhi, a large section of your community have literally come a long way. From India onto Suriname, where your forefathers were put to work on the plantations, often in pitiful conditions. After that, many of them came to the Netherlands. Now, yours is one of the best integrated communities in the country. Partly thanks to your approach to life. Modest, positive, and forward-looking. Not looking back with feelings of jealousy or resentment. As Gandhi said, an eye for an eye will make the whole world blind. Paradoxically, the incident with this statue shows that Gandhi's teachings are still alive and well. And the outcry that followed shows how firmly the principle of non-violence is anchored in our society. But it also reminds us that we must cherish that principle, and on a special day like today, celebrate it. This doesn't relieve us of our responsibility to ask difficult questions. Does everyone feel at home here? Does everyone have good future prospects? And how do we get along with each other a little bit better? Nothing's going to change my world. The Beatles also sing as a mantra in Across the Universe. And let these lyrics remind us of how we must hold on to the core values of sympathy, empathy, and compassion. We owe it to society, we owe it to Gandhi, and we owe it to ourselves. We must help each other to change our world for the better. Thank you very much.
Namaste, good morning, and hello everyone. Greetings to you on the occasion of the International Day of Nonviolence and the 151st birth anniversary of the father of the Indian nation, Mahatma Gandhi. I am extremely happy to join this online celebration being organized by Stichting Standblade Mahatma Gandhi, with the support of the Indian Embassy and the City of The Hague, as well as various other partners. I congratulate the Stichting for its continued efforts to organize these meetings every year, and I'm particularly happy to welcome to this event the Honorable Minister for Justice and Security of the Government of the Netherlands, as well as Mayor Jan van Zanen, the Mayor of The Hague. Friends, this celebration in a way is the grand finale of 2 years of activities which, under the leadership of Government of India, has been organized across the world in honor of this great Indian who was probably the greatest apostle of peace and non-violence that the world has seen. Here in the Netherlands, our activities have included Gandhi marches, or marches for disseminating the message of non-violence through the streets of the city of The Hague, which prides itself as the city of peace and justice. We have had an outreach program to schools whereby volunteers have gone to students and talked about the importance of non-violence. This has very conveniently converged with anti-bullying efforts taken by school authorities across the Netherlands. We have had exhibitions on Mahatma Gandhi. We have had meetings like this with speeches on Mahatma Gandhi and his message. We have had release of stamps, we have had music programs, we have had dance programs. So a huge variety of means has been utilized over the last 2 years to spread the message of Mahatma Gandhi. Friends, Mahatma Gandhi was a multifaceted genius. He's known more than anything else for his commitment to truth, non-violence, and the principle of satyagraha, or truth force, which he invented, which was essentially passive resistance and civil disobedience to acts of injustice and oppression. He inspired Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the United States of America and later Nelson Mandela in their respective struggles in their countries. Einstein once said, "For generations to come, people will scarcely believe that a man like this walked upon the earth." And he spoke of this regarding Mahatma Gandhi, because what Mahatma Gandhi achieved through non-violence was unparalleled before and perhaps even unparalleled after. He led India to independence from the mighty British Kingdom where the sun never set, using the instrument of non-violence. He forged the people of India into one united nation, overcoming differences of language, of religion, of culture, of caste and class, and brought them together in one big struggle to attain India's independence. And India's independence in turn started the process of decolonization across the world. Mahatma Gandhi also was very particular that the ends should never justify the means. The means are as important as the ends, and in all his actions and through his life, he stands as a moral example for political leaders, for activists, and even common people across the world. Today, as we live through this great pandemic of COVID-19, I wonder what Mahatma Gandhi would have thought, what he had done, what he would have done, and what does the message of his life bring us. Ladies and gentlemen, it might be of interest to you to know Mahatma Gandhi and his family were affected by the Spanish flu in 1918 when it reached India. The inmates of the ashram where he lived in Gujarat, the Sabarmati ashram, were also badly affected by the Spanish flu. It is believed that something like 8 million to 12 million Indians died in that pandemic of 1918 when it hit India. Mahatma Gandhi recovered from that pandemic after a protracted illness. It was only 4 years since he had come back from South Africa. But the disease made even stronger his resolve and his commitment to health as well as education. What the pandemic has taught all of us in today's world is how mistaken we have been in neglecting the importance of health. We do not have vaccines, we do not have medicines, we do not have medical equipment in many of our countries, while millions and millions of dollars and wealth of all kinds has been wasted on building arms, on building armies, on creating monuments to boost the ego of leaders, while the most important, the most basic requirement of health has been neglected by governments all over the world. So if Mahatma Gandhi was alive, this is what he would have spoken most loudly about, and this was something he held very close to his heart all along. In fact, it is another little known fact is that he wanted to be a doctor, and he ended up finally being a lawyer. And Mahatma Gandhi in his life, during the Boer War in South Africa, during World War I, he organized ambulance corps to attend to those injured in the war, to those who were suffering of various illnesses. And subsequently, he was a champion for people suffering from leprosy and people suffering from tuberculosis. In his times, these people used to be shunned, saying that they could spread the disease, but Mahatma Gandhi was never afraid. He was always a caregiver. He would go into their midst, he would lead people into the midst and say these people should be looked after by rest of society. So, number one, Mahatma Gandhi would have educated strongly the importance of health and education and asked governments and societies to invest even more in this most critical requirement of the world. And number two, he would have emphasized the need for caregiving without discrimination. He would have emphasized the importance of all of us attending to those who are affected by COVID today without discriminating against them and without fear that their disease will come to us. This is a problem confronted by the whole world, and he would have said we should all stand together to address this problem and to challenge this problem. Going on from there, I would say that we have all seen how suddenly the skies have become have less pollution, the roads are less traffic, animals are coming out onto the streets because the streets are deserted, people are sitting at home hiding from the virus. Mahatma Gandhi, who always talked about the importance of meeting people's needs and not their greeds, would have said this is a wake-up call. Sustainable development is the key. We must protect our world. We must not overexploit its resources. We must protect the flora and fauna, and we must live in harmony with nature. So this crisis would have strengthened his call for sustainable development even more. Finally, Mahatma Gandhi used to say that he has a talisman. His talisman, which he advocated to all people, was whenever you take a decision, ask yourself the question, how will this decision affect the poorest of the poor, the poorest, the most underprivileged person or the weakest person around me? And this talisman, he would have said, is the need of the hour. We in India have seen the plight of migrant workers. There are poor people across the world who are suffering far, far more than rich people in their countries or people who live in rich developed countries who have the resources. And Mahatma Gandhi would have said the world as a whole, every individual should uphold the talisman and try and do everything possible for the poor of the world, for the needy of the world, for the underprivileged of the world. Mahatma Gandhi, lastly, would have said leaders should practice what they preach. We have seen across the world leaders asking others to do certain things but not practicing it themselves. And Mahatma Gandhi always believed that you have to be the change that you seek, that you desire. Mahatma Gandhi would have argued that leaders should set an example to the rest of society. They should practice what they preach. They should obey the rules and regulations which governments have announced in the interest of health as a whole, and they should act bravely and boldly in the interest of community as a whole, adhering to the rules and regulations themselves. Friends, with these few words, I would like to conclude this address to the International Day of Nonviolence celebrations here in The Hague. I wish each and every one of you the very best. Today is a moment of history, today is a moment of remembrance when we recall this great man, his life and message, but we should not confine ourselves to just remembering him. this should be a call to action. Just as COVID-19 is a call to action, let this International Day of Nonviolence be a call to action for all of us to live up to Gandhi's dreams, to live up to his ideals, and to practice all that he taught us in our daily lives, and to fight the menace of COVID-19 with the messages, with the teachings, with the lessons that Gandhi taught us, steadfastly holding on to the principles of non-violence and peace, for which Mahatma Gandhi dedicated his life, and he even sacrificed his life. Thank you very much. Namaste to all of you. Stay in good health. I wish you the very best for the coming days.
Your Excellencies, dear all, a warm digital welcome to you all, and thank you for joining this program. Today we celebrate the champion of non-violence and peace, Mahatma Gandhi. His name will always be linked to The Hague, the international city of peace and justice. In The Hague, there are many people working day in, day out to create a better world. A world without chemical weapons, without ethnic cleansing. A world in which conflicts between states are fought in the courtroom, not on the battlefield. A world where the rule of law reigns, not the rule of the mob. 16 years ago, a statue of Mahatma Gandhi was unveiled here in The Hague on Hobbemaplein. The statue is not only an homage to the father of the fatherland of India, it is also a monument that commemorates Hindustani immigration. The monument is engraved with words spoken by Mahatma Gandhi, and that will be familiar to all of you. I quote, "I want the cultures of all the lands to be blown about my house as freely as possible, but I refuse to be blown off my feet by any." The Hague has for centuries been a home for people of all the lands. For all those who want to build their lives here and contribute to our society. The Hague is home to people who have lived here for generations, as well as immigrants who have arrived here more recently. Men and women, believers and non-believers, Christians and Muslims, Hindus and Jews, for all. As mayor, I want to do everything in my power to encourage contact between all these different people and different groups in the city. I'm certainly not alone in this. There are a great many people in The Hague working to build bridges. The more we get to know one another, the less we think in terms of stereotypes. This leads us to greater understanding and respect for one another. And hostility becomes less likely. In this respect, Mahatma Gandhi remains an inspiring example to all nations and generations, here in The Hague and everywhere.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a distinct privilege to remember a most transformative and inspirational figures in contemporary history, Mahatma Gandhi. His was a life where he stood for the rights and dignity of every individual through his unwavering belief in non-violence, to win over the hearts and minds who transgress. His was a life full of calmness, courage, compassion in the face of any form of oppression or provocation or intimidation. And in his characteristic ways, he employed an exceptional level of humility and empathy to reach his views to the masses. As a teenager, my modest introduction to Gandhiji was courtesy his fabled autobiography, My Experiment with Truth. As I passed my high school in Bangladesh, I accosted an octogenarian Gandhian in rural Bangladesh. And 2 decades later, while I was on a diplomatic assignment in New Delhi, I came across veteran Gandhian Nirmala Deshpandeji. As I stand in 2020 in Hague, for instance, I wonder how would a youth look at Gandhiji today. Surely what he spoke out on so many occasions, those transcend boundaries, cultures, societies and nations. Indeed, through his timeless reflections. As one would carefully deconfigure, through all that he spoke about or did or stood for throughout his life, he actually labored to inculcate in the minds of individuals culture of peace through education, sustainable economic and social development, respect for all human rights, equality between women and men, democratic participation at every possible tier, harmony, tolerance, solidarity. Last year, I had the privilege to be witness to the deliberation on Culture of Peace Manifesto in New York. And I heard them that it asks every individual anywhere to pledge, quote unquote, in my daily life, in my family, my work, my community, my country and my region, to respect the life and dignity of each human being without discrimination or prejudice. Practice active non-violence, rejecting violence in all its forms. Share my time and material resource, such as in the spirit of generosity, to put an end to exclusion, injustice, and political and economic oppression. Defend freedom of expression and cultural diversity. I believe this is where Gandhiji's darshan, that's philosophy, connects eminently with the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development that all our leaders have signed on to 5 years back. 7 decades since his departure, in contemporary global settings in Asia, Europe, or Africa, his values encourage millions of women, youth, disadvantaged to advance participation, equality, fairness, harmony, peace and stability in the minds of individual or through the fabric of society or conduct of responsible society. That is where and how the people of Bangladesh drew on in our struggle and journey for emancipation of freedom and liberalism in so many senses. To conclude, we are reminded of his evergreen words, quote, "In a gentle way, you can shake the world," unquote. Thank you.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, today at the International Day of Non-Violence, as Ambassador of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan in The Hague, I am really honored to have the opportunity to make a few remarks. It is generally recognized that almost everything that is fundamental that we stand for has prefigured in the work, life, and ideas of Gandhi, the inspiring Indian leader and advocate for human rights, whose birthday became the day for this International Day of Non-Violence. Last year, this day was commemorated under the shadow of global warming and fears of climate change, and it is possible influence on the emergence of international conflicts in solving such conflicts. Then we already spoke about this issue as a crisis, which we are facing now, 1 year later, with the COVID-19 or Corona crisis added to the global warming problem and its consequences. It is even more clear that the global community must continue to deal with non-violent conflict solving. That COVID-19 pandemic is just one of the drivers of the turmoil that Afghanistan and other countries have to deal with all at the same time. Violence and warfare have evolved the people of Afghanistan and the people of numerous other countries have witnessed that evolution. In 2004, a strategic analyst already recognized 4 waves of terror in the history of the modern world. In the meantime, we might recognize that we are still in this 4th wave, or perhaps in a 5th wave of global terrorism to be distinguished, in which global terrorist networks are closely linked with global criminal networks, making warfare totally unconventional and peace building even more of a challenge. After 20 years of violence, the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan has demonstrated the commitment to take hard decisions to start direct peace talks with the Taliban. However, for a sustainable peace in Afghanistan, we must get to the root of the terrorism problem in our region and address it as the global phenomenon and the threat that it is. This is now the more urgent. Now climate change exacerbates the seasonal floods and drought in Afghanistan. The future must hold to quote the preamble of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family, which is truly the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. These values have to be actualized. We need frameworks for a collective addressing and solving of the multiple drivers of turmoil, particularly global terrorism, climate change, and COVID-19. Though we are indeed facing multiple drivers of turmoil all at once in our country and in our region, above all, our most urgent and important priority is peace. The role of the global community and our international partners and allies will continue to be extremely important as the delegation of the government of Afghanistan now negotiates with the Taliban in Doha, Qatar. At those talks, the people of Afghanistan already expressed a clear and urgent priority, a ceasefire. I would like to take this opportunity to call for help of the international community to achieve the result of a sovereign, united, and democratic Afghanistan, a country that will be at peace with itself in the region and will be capable to preserve and expand the gains of the last 19 years and become an example of how unity can overcome the turmoil and uncertainty that defines our world today. This starts with the ceasefire in my country. Thank you.
Mensen gevraagd. Mensen gevraagd om vrede te leren, waar geweld door de eeuwen heen model heeft gestaan. Mensen gevraagd die de wegen markeren waarop alles wat leven heeft verder kan gaan. Mensen gevraagd om de noodklok te luiden en om tegen de waanzin de straat op te gaan. Mensen gevraagd om de tekens te duiden die alleen nog moedwillig zijn mis te verstaan. Mensen gevraagd om hun nek uit te steken voor een andere tijd en een nieuwe moraal. Mensen om ijzer met handen te breken, ook al lijkt het ondoenlijk en paradoxaal. Mensen gevraagd om hun stem te verheffen, verontrust door een wapen dat niemand ontziet. Mensen die helder de waarheid beseffen, dat wie mikt op een ander zichzelf ook beschiet. Mensen gevraagd die in naam van de vrede voor behoud van de aarde en al wat daar leeft, wapens het liefst tot een ploeg willen smeden voor de oogst die aan allen weer overvloed geeft. Mensen gevraagd. Er worden mensen gevraagd. Mensen te midden van mensen gevraagd. Mensen gevraagd.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Hague University of Applied Sciences, the Faculty of Public Management, Law and Safety, the Gandhi Room. My name is Lidwien Bremer. I am the Dean of this faculty. We offer legal, governance and safety programs in applied sciences to international and Dutch students, some 4,000 in all. We have a tradition of Gandhi. We annually compete in the essay competition, students of the International Public Management Program. And this spring, we decided to make a special Gandhi room in our university, where we have posted on the wall, as you can see, some of the key thoughts of Mahatma Gandhi. This initiative was taken by International Public Management lecturer Elizabeth Bethlehem and Geert Neden, program manager of the IPM program, and of course Mr. Ram Lakina, chairman of the Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Foundation. We were planning to open this room in April in the presence of dignitaries. We were looking forward to that very much. Unfortunately, COVID prevented such an event. But I'm very happy that in this way, in this virtual way, on the 2nd of October 2020, we are participating virtually in this program, in this event. We can still welcome you virtually to this beautiful room with these key thoughts of Gandhi's, which we hope will inspire current students and generations to come. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Bethlehem, and I'm a lecturer at the International Public Management Department at the Hague University of Applied Sciences in the Netherlands. I'm very excited today to tell you a little bit more about our involvement with the foundation or Stichting Standbeeld Mahatma Gandhi. It started a couple of years ago when the foundation approached our department, International Public Management or IPM, and they wanted to tell us about their annual essay writing competition on the topic of Gandhi. And as a professional English lecturer, I jumped at the opportunity because I thought, wow, you know, this is something the students could really benefit from. So ever since then, we have participated in the competition, and the Stichting or Foundation has also come to do guest lectures at our department or at IPM. And this has really been inspiring for our students. Students get the opportunity to write something and see their words potentially make a difference in society. And I think this kind of thing is so valuable, and we just don't see enough of it in the world today. So I'm very, very grateful that we've had the opportunity, you know, as a department, but also as a university, to be able to participate in such a wonderful competition. I'm also very grateful to the three representatives of the Stichting Foundation who have helped us and supported us in this endeavor. And they are Mr. Lakina, Mr. Nia, and Ms. de Bordes. And the three of them have really, come to do those guest lectures. They've encouraged students, and so they've really been pivotal in creating interest around the competition. And so I sincerely hope that, this relationship between the foundation and our department at the Hague University of Applied Sciences will continue, because it's something that's so relevant and such added value to education, not only for our department, but for the whole University of Applied Sciences. And I do hope that other universities of applied sciences will also follow suit and encourage entries from their students as well for the competition. So that's how it all started. More recently, we were also approached by the foundation about a potential Gandhi wall or something, or sculpture, or something that could tangibly demonstrate Gandhi's purpose and also values. And initially I thought this is a great idea, and I thought, it's also something that would be physically embody our relationship with this external organization. So we approached the faculty director, so the faculty of or PLS, which is the Public Management, Safety and Security and Law at the University of Applied Sciences, and her name is Ms. Lidwien Bremer. And she was also very excited about the project, and she said, why not, let's do it. So it has been a collaboration between the foundation and the PLS faculty at the University of Applied Sciences. And what it is basically is it's a physical wall with Gandhi's words printed on that wall. And it's in an open space where students can collaborate, they can meet up, they can drink a coffee, they can study for their tests or exams. And so it's a very, very special wall which they can glance up at and see Gandhi's words printed there. So it's something nice and something visual for the students, but also for the staff and the employees of the university as a whole. So these have been two projects that we've been working on with the foundation. So I'm very happy that, we've been able to do that. And also that, our faculty director, Ms. Ludwien Bremer, has allowed us such a wonderful opportunity. So thank you very much to her as well. But also, of course, to the three representatives I mentioned from the Stichting and the Stichting as a whole, because they've really been, the key to activate this interest at the University of Applied Sciences. So that's really been great. I think that these projects really embody the values of international public management, the degree program where we teach. And I think it's also very important that students are exposed to Gandhi's ideas, but also to ideas of other leaders, whether they agree or whether they disagree. That's up to them to decide and to formulate an opinion. But it's good to be exposed to different ways. And I think that by participating in such an essay writing competition allows them to do this and allows them to engage in the ideas or with the ideas of others. So I want to thank, in close, I want to thank all the parties involved and specifically, to the foundation. Thank you very much for everything. And it's been a real pleasure to work with you over the last 3 years. And I'm very, very proud to have been a participant in this collaboration and to see how our students have benefited from these projects. So thank you very much. And I sincerely also hope that our students will continue, supporting and writing essays to develop their skills, and specifically also to engage with Gandhi's ideas further and also apply them to the contemporary situation that we have currently. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of today's events.
I am a board member of the Foundation of Standbeeld Mahatma Gandhi. It has fallen upon me to express the vote of thanks for this memorable commemoration of the International Day of Nonviolence, for which Mahatma Gandhi was the inspiration. I sincerely hope that this virtual commemoration will not be the new normal and that we will be able next year to go back to our usual event in the Peace Palace. In the present context, all our speakers deserve more than ever praise for their contributions. To start with the Minister of Justice and Security, who in spite of his enormous tasks in the period of COVID-19, was willing to address us on the relevance and effectiveness of non-violence in resolving social and political conflicts. It could not be more relevant in the present time. Then the Indian ambassador, who for the last time during his posting in the Netherlands gave us an update view on Mahatma Gandhi's relevance to the post-COVID world. Then Mr. Jan van Zanen, the new mayor of The Hague, who for the first time sent us a message of goodwill at this occasion. I do hope that more opportunities will arise for him to interact with us. Most cordial thanks go to the ambassadors of India's neighboring countries, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Afghanistan, who have expressed messages of goodwill. Very special recognition goes to Mr. Bert van Alphen, Deputy Mayor of The Hague, who was so audacious as to surprise us with a most appreciated poem recital. Finally, there was the very special presentation of the new Mahatma Gandhi room of the The Hague University of Applied Sciences. We greatly value this new development at the university. I close with once more thanking most cordially all our contributors, including our chairman, the IT team that saw to it that everything could run smoothly, and last but not at all least, all our viewers who did log in to, in my opinion, a very memorable commemoration. Thank you.